I wonder what would happen if I crossed these screwdrivers.
Makes me feel good.
Welcome to issue what I'm calling 0 of the Build of Ecto-1. What this video is going to be is just to bring you up to scratch to where I'm up to. I bought this project as something to do while I was working away. Situations changed a little bit, I'm settled a bit more, and it's such a fantastic build I actually want to share it with you. So it's very hard to show you each individual stage when it's already been built. I am up to pack 6, or issue 6 as they call it, and that means I'm up to issue 18, which is the front chassis. So what I'd like to do is go through each stage with you. I'll show you the parts that you get, I'll tell you my thoughts on each individual stage, and then I will actually show you what I'm up to. And then from the next video will be, do you know, I've forgotten what issue number we're up to. So the next video will be issue 9 or stage 19, which is obviously going to be the next stage that I haven't completed. At the time of recording, I have 2 packs that I haven't started, which is 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. I also have another pack which has been delivered to my postal address. I just need to get it to me. So that's 12 issues. I also have the Proton packs, which I'm going to fit those in at some point. So from next week I'll be doing 2 stages per week. Once I'm a little bit caught up, I will then drop it down to 1 issue a week. So here's the build so far. I hope you enjoy it, and then obviously we'll be working with real parts from next week. So we begin at stage 1, and the parts that we receive are part A, the hood, parts B and C are the hood rim interior and exterior, part D is the front license plate, part E is the sticker, parts F and G are the air inlets, and then you get AM screws 1.5 by 4mm and BM screws 1.7 by 4mm, and then you get a screwdriver. Now I've not used the screwdriver, I have my own, but I do love to see screwdrivers, because any of you that are new to partworks, maybe you've got no tools at all, at least now you get the means to build. Issue 1 was a very simple build, but in all fairness I found that all issue 1s of all partwork seem to be very easy but very chunky. It's there just to show off the partwork, and this one certainly does. I was a little bit disappointed with the air inlets, the way that the screws just don't blend in at all, but that's something I will be looking into, as I believe lots of others are. Stage 2 is to assemble the hood rim, and that's just simply take 2 pieces and then screw them together with 4 BM screws. Overall a very strong stage 1, with some nice looking parts, and I look forward to the rest of it. So wow, so many parts for this one. You've got A is the front grille, B and C is the left and the right side grille, D and E is the left and the front grille strip, and the F is the right grille strip. G and H is the left headlight base and rim. I is the headlight reflector on the left. J is the left headlight lens. K is the left headlight gasket. L and M is the right headlight base and rim. N is the right headlight reflector. O is the right headlight lens, and P is the right headlight gasket. Q and R is the anti-collision strobe light frame, left and right, and S and T is the anti-collision strobe light lens and bulb. That's followed with AP screws, 1.7 by 5mm screws, BP 1.5 by 4mm, CP 2 by 10mm, and BM 1.7 by 4mm. So, in stark contrast, whereas stage 1 gave you 1 or 2 very big pieces, stage 2 gave you what looks like hundreds of small pieces. I found this very challenging. Putting the side grills and strips on was actually quite challenging. You've got lots of pieces that look the same, but they do need to go into specific places. The anti-collision strobe lights were nice and simple. Little bit disappointed that there's going to be no LEDs in there, but I do feel there is potential for a mod. The headlights, absolutely fantastic. Each headlight is made up of 5 pieces, and there's 2 headlights. Fitting the headlights was quite complex, but once you figured out the orientation, they went in nice and easily. Another strong issue. Stage 3 consists of A, front bumper, B and C, left and right fog light casing, D and E, left outer and inner fog light frame, F and G, the right in outer and inner fog light frame, H and I is the left and the right fog light lenses, and we get AP screws 1.7 by 5mm, DP 2 by 6mm, and BM 1.7 by 4mm. So this stage was the first stage of Pack 2, but also the first of Issue 3, because stages 1 and 2 had their own magazines, whereas from now on we get one magazine for 4 parts. And I thought it was such a strong start. You first of all fit the license plate to the bumper. You then assemble the left fog light casing and then the right. And these are their own level of challenging. Then you pop them onto the front bumper, and then you put on the lower grille, and it really does start to look like a big American car now. And I thought this was a really, really strong issue. Stage 4 consists of A, left front tyre, B, hubcap, C, centre cap, D, outer wheel, E, inner wheel, and 2.3 by 4mm screws called CM screws. So stage 4, full kudos. I find wheels extremely boring to do. I'm sorry if that upsets anybody. I do find them boring. There usually isn't much to do, but in this one they've done them a little bit differently. So you actually place the outer wheel and then the inner wheel, and then you have to kind of fight it, and you screw it together with 3 screws. So I thought it was quite an interesting way to do the wheel and the tyre, and I actually look forward to the next 3. Okay, so the gearbox stage 5 consists of 7 pieces and some screws. We have the bell housing connector, which is A, B is the bell housing plate, C is the bell housing, D is the gearbox connector, E is the gearbox housing left, and F is the gearbox housing right. Finishing that off is G, which is the oil pan. And the 2 sets of screws are DM 2 by 5mm screws and EM 2 by 4mm screws, so identical, but one's ever so slightly longer. This was one of those nice pieces that goes together quite easily, nothing too complex, but you actually do get quite a good result at it. The gearbox was a rather nice shade of blue, and I've heard a few people comment on the colour. I think everybody enjoyed it, as did I. So stage 6 consists of A and B, which is the left engine block and the left engine support. C is the engine block lower part. D is a fiddly little part, very fragile, which is the dipstick. E and F is the left exhaust manifold and cylinder head. G is the ignition wire junction, and H is the left cylinder head cover. And then that's supported with AP screws, which are 1.7 by 5 millimeter, BP screws, which are 1.5 by 4 millimeter, and DM screws 2 by 5 millimeters. So this is one of those nice builds where you take a little piece, you build it, and then you add it onto a previous issue to make something a little bit bigger. We only actually build half of the engine block. It is the left engine block, dipstick and ignition wire junction, and unfortunately that is the end of that pack, which means that when you're at this stage you now have to wait another month. I would like perhaps for them to have brought next week in, perhaps move the wheel. I thought this was a bit of a funny time. That piece is very vulnerable now. Once you get the right engine block on, that will strengthen it up. So I would like to perhaps have the wheel moved out, say to stage 7, and then what is stage 7 can come into stage 6. Everything's moved down one, and let's do the wheel next month because it's not being used. So on to a new pack. This is now pack 4 or issue 4, and this is stage 7, and the parts they're quite numerous. A, timing belt cover. B, timing belt cover connector. C, cooling system. D, oil sump. E, engine block top. F, distributor assembly. G, engine block cover. H, pipe joint. I, intake manifold. J, breather cap. K, right engine block. L, right engine support. M, right engine manifold. And M, fuel pump lower. And the screws are AP 1.7 by 5 millimeters, BP 1.5 by 4 millimeters, EP 1.7 by 4 millimeters, DM 2.5 millimeters, 2 by 5 millimeters, and EM 2 by 4 millimeters. Quite a few parts there. This was quite an interesting build because there was an awful lot to do at stage 1 and stage 2, or parts 1 and 2, and then it slowed down a bit, and then you ended up with a rather nice piece. It just added a lot of strength to the engine. I was wrong about the next one being the right block, right side, but that's coming next. But nevertheless, this does add an awful lot of much needed support for something that's been sat on the shelf for probably at least 3 weeks untouched. Couple of pieces left over ready for future issues. Did enjoy this stage. I did. Yes, it was a nice stage to build. Okay, so huge part list this week, or this stage. We have A, the right cylinder head. B, ignition wire junction. C, the right cylinder head cover. D, the fuel pump. E and F is the fuel pump cover and bracket, and G and H is the fuel filter and filter cap, and I, J, K is ignition coil, coil plug and coil cap. L is the spark plug. M is the distributor cap plug. N is the vacuum advance unit. O is the dipstick. P is the starter motor. Q is the drive pinion. R is the starter solenoid, and S is the coil wire, and you also get a pair of tweezers. Again, just like the screwdriver, I won't be using the tweezers because I have my own sets. But if this is your first ever build, I imagine there's a little bit of relief that you've got a tool that you know, it's horrible having something they say, oh, you need to go and buy this and you can't afford it, or you want to build it now, you can't get it. We also have 5 types of screws. AP, which is 1.7 by 5 mil screws, BP 1.5 by 4 millimeter, FP 1.5 by 7 millimeter, BM 1.7 by 4 millimeter, and DM 2 by 5 millimeter. So that is the right engine block complete. So now we're starting to have quite a solid engine. Most people who have done part work builds with engines know that there's an awful lot of work goes into the engine, and that's a really good thing, because there is a lot of detail to be picked up on the engine. I really enjoyed this part. There was a couple of really fiddly parts, so don't sit down and think, oh, I'll do this in 2 or 3 minutes. Really take your time. And doing the spark plugs, piece M, which is stage 6 within the build, let me just check. They are very small and fiddly. They are the distributor cap plugs. There are 9 of them, and they are very fiddly, so take your time. Okay, so the parts for the carburetor and air filter are A, fast idle cam, B and C, the fast idle cam bracket and support, the D is the fuel inlet, E is the choke cap, F is the carburetor, G is the air filter, H is the air filter side, I is the air filter inlet, J is the air filter cover, and then K is the air filter screw, and then finishing it off is L, the fuel pipe, and 4 sets of screws, BP, which is 1.5 by 4 millimeter, DP, which is 2 by 6 millimeter, EP 1.7 by 4 millimeter, and GP 1.5 by 3 millimeters. So only 4 stages to this build, but it is a nice little build, and this obviously puts on the air filter and the carburetor. I do think the finished product is nice. It's a fairly short build, but it's a nice build. So the parts for the generator and oil filter are A and B generator bracket support and front bracket, C, D, E and F are the generator end, body, inner and plug, G, H and I, which is the generator pulley inner and outer and the rear bracket, J is the water pump housing, K is the oil filter, L and M is the oil filter head and base, and 5 sets of screws, BP 1.5 by 4 millimeters, DP 2 by 6 millimeters, EP 1.7 by 4 millimeters, GP 1.5 by 3 millimeters, and FM 1.5 by 3 millimeters. So this is a really nice stage to finish off pack 3. Lots of small little bits, just adding little bits of detail. Isn't too complex and won't take an age to build, but you can just see that it's just adding quite a lot of detail now. Okay, so stage 11, the power steering pump and the crankshaft pulley. Parts are as follows: A, power steering pump support, B, power steering pump, C, power steering pump cap, D, power steering pump end plate, E, power steering pump pulley inner, and F is the power steering pump pulley outer. G is the pressure hose, H and I is the crankshaft pulley base and rear, and J and K is the crankshaft pulley center and front. BP screws 1.5 by 4 millimeters, EP screws 1.7 by 4 millimeters, FP 1 by 5 by 7 millimeters, and GM screws 1.7 by 3mm. So there is the finished build up to stage 11. Nice simple issue. The only thing you've got to be wary of is the pulleys, the crankshaft pulleys. They do need to be put in the right orientation and the right way round. Shouldn't have a problem if you just check the instructions. So stage 12, engine, fan and cooling pipes. We have A, B and C is the fan, pulley, rear, centre and front. D is the engine fan. E and F is the cooling pipe 1 and 2. G is the belt. H, I and J and K are all cables 70, 90, 80 and 100 millimeters. So be careful how you arrange these. Don't get them in a muddle. L is the air filter control pipe. 12M is the 70 millimeter pipe, and finishing it off is a single EP 1.7 by 4 millimeter screw. So this is a simple stage, but it can catch you out with the pipes. You need to be prepared to take quite a long time to do this. Just focus on it, follow the instructions carefully, and there really shouldn't be too much problem. But wow, look at the detail it's added. So on to stage 13, the front chassis frame and distributor, and the parts list is A, the front chassis frame, and this is a massive piece of metal. B is the front chassis frame cover. C is the distributor, and then you have EM 2x4mm screws. Now I'm going to be honest with you, I really can't tell if I enjoyed this issue or not. On the one hand, you've got an awful lot, so much material for your money, that in that sense it was brilliant. However, you add 2 pieces and 3 screws and the whole thing's done. Probably get the whole lot done in less than a minute. So let's call it 50-50 on that one. But you know, I'm never disappointed with issues totally, because they all are part of the build, and you do need to look at the whole build. But this certainly won't go down as my favourite stage. So stage 14 is the left front suspension and brake drum, and the parts list for this is A, lower suspension arm, B, shock absorber, C, shaft. D and E is the upper and lower steering knuckle connectors. F is the upper suspension arm. G is the coil spring. H is the rubber bumper. I, mounting bracket. J, steering knuckle. K, backing plate. L, brake drum. M, left tie rod. N, steering rack. And the rest are all screws. EM 2x4mm. HM 2x6mm. M is 2.3 by 6mm. JM 2.3 by 7mm. KM is a 2 by 3 by 6mm. This is like a cap's top hat screw. GP is 1.5 by 3mm, and HP is 2 by 4mm. So some of you may not agree with me, but I found this so challenging. I felt it was a trap. The last stage was really simple, and then they've lumped us in with a really challenging stage. So putting the left suspension and brake drum in, you've really got to focus, and my eyes were hurting at the end of it, trying to figure everything out, reading the instructions. So in stark contrast, I absolutely loved this issue, because anyone who knows me knows that I love a challenging issue. I put parts on upside down, I've checked the instructions, I can't figure out what's wrong with them. I've turned things around, which has resulted in other pieces upside down. But thankfully we're screwing into metal, so there is good grip with the screws. And eventually I managed to get it all done. So stage 15, which is the right front suspension and tie rod, and massive parts list again. A is the right tie rod, B is the lower suspension arm, C shock absorber, D shaft, E upper suspension arm, F and G is the lower and upper steering knuckle connector, H is the coil spring, I rubber bumper, J mounting bracket, K steering knuckle, L backing plate, and M brake drum. And the rest are all screws. EM 2x4mm, HM 2x6mm, I 2.3x6mm, JM 2.3x7mm, KM 2x3x6mm, GP 1.5x3mm, and HP 2x4mm. If you thought that part list sounded familiar, you would be absolutely correct. It's pretty much the same as the previous issue, but this time it's on the right hand side. So now we have two discs. We don't have two wheels yet. But this was, I found this a lot easier, I think, because I've done it once before and I had real problems with it. I think maybe A, because I'm a little bit more experienced with it, and B, I was aware of the issues. I actually found this relatively a breeze. Stage 16 is the front suspension and steering, and the parts list is A stabilizer bar, B stabilizer bar linkage, C mounting bracket, D idler arm bracket, E idler arm, F pinion housing, G pinion base, H and I is the steering pinion and column, and J is a pitman arm, and the K is the power steering hose, and the screws are BM 1.7x4mm, BP 1.5x4mm, DM 2x5mm screws, IM 2.3x6, and KM is 2x3x6mm, LM is 2.3x5, and MM 2x8mm. So this was a pretty straightforward issue. Front suspension steering, that is literally all it is. It's just connecting a few things up, adding a few bits of small details, fitting the engine onto the chassis. The only thing I did a little bit different from the instructions was I missed out stage 6, which was fitting the left front wheel. I didn't do stage 16 and 17 together, even though it came in pack form, and I don't like having an odd number of wheels, so I decided to miss stage 6 out, go on to stage 7, which is coming up, and then do stage part 6, and then do stage 17 all at the same time. Stage 17 is the right front wheel and tyre, and this is pretty much exactly the same as the previous one. You have part A, right front tyre, B hubcap, C centre cap, D outer wheel, E inner wheel, F right brake fluid hose, and G left brake fluid hose, and then you have CM screws 2.3x4mm and LM screws 2.3x5mm. So I really cannot say anything about this issue that I haven't that would enhance it from the previous tyre. Tyres were nice and simple to do. I did complete the tyre, then I did stage 2, then I went back to the previous stage and fitted the left front wheel, and then I fitted the hoses, which is stage 3, and it's really added a lot to the build. So finally we have stage 18, which is the front chassis, and the parts are A front chassis, B and C front and left chassis parts, D&E front and left chassis skeleton, and the screws are DM 2x5mm, EM 2x4mm, and HM 2x6mm. Now this was an interesting part. Please don't laugh at me. I kind of thought this made it look a little bit like a Formula 1 racing car with this fin on the front. I know that that's going to add support for more bodywork and pieces later on. Wasn't a difficult stage to do. You pop 2 pieces on with 1 screw each, and then you pop the whole chassis on. That's 4 screws, and then you put the little skeleton bits on, and then that's it. That's completed. So in 18 issues, yeah, I'm really impressed with it. So let me show you the model as I have it. So this is my build so far. This is the sticker under here. I really didn't know what to do with it, so it came with a piece of sellotape. So I've just stuck it to the binder just to keep it nice and safe. The binder was a free gift with the. I'd like to show you is the hood. Now I didn't actually put the grills in the end because attaching those with silver screws, I'm looking at different ideas, maybe to glue that on and then just pop a dressmaking pin or something. Many ideas floating through my head, but look at the size of it. That's my hand, and there's the grill. There's the bonnet. So that's a really good issue 1 to show you what kind of size we're dealing with. The trouble is keeping it safe. I really don't want to scratch it. So this is another piece that's been done, and this is the front grille. Absolutely amazing. That is definitely an American vehicle, isn't it? There's no mistaking where that comes from. We have strobe lights on the front. Little bit disappointed that they won't be working, but the 4 headlights I'm suspecting will, because as you can see you've got holes there for LEDs. The fog lights won't be working. I guess perhaps you could do a mod if that concerns you too much. Beautiful number plate, but really happy with this part. So let's have a look at the main, what we've done most of the work on, and that's the chassis. And there is so much to show you guys. The beautiful blue block up against the black. We've now got the steering in place, which is going to be this bit, and it is rather stiff at the moment, but it does work. We've got all these wires and pulleys and all sorts, and this is going to come into play later on. That looks like it's coming off. Couple of bits that are rather loose, not overly concerned because they will eventually plug into something, but I'm really impressed with this. Look at those wheels, so impressive. Sorry about the focus. And it weighs an absolute ton, and that's only the front of the engine. So yeah, that's it. So what I'll do is I'll show you the parts list for the next issue, and that will be out next week. So thanks for watching, guys. I wonder what would happen if I crossed these screwdrivers. There is absolutely no distinction, no